Well, hello, welcome to my kitchen. Today it is all about my mother. Mother's Day is right around the corner, and I thought this would be the perfect time to share one of her recipes with you. These are her lemon bars, and growing up, this was my personal favorite, and really it still is to this day. If I go and visit her and she asks me, what do you want me to make for you? I will, without a shadow of a doubt, say, I want your lemon bars. And most every time I go to visit, she has these for me, so I appreciate that, Mom. Well, I have added a little bit of a twist to her lemon bars, and she would expect nothing less from me. She always said I was her little rebel, so sorry about that, Mom, but I think you'll enjoy this too. I'm adding some fresh rosemary to the crust. I'll tell you more about that later, but this is so good in these lemon bars. I'm starting out with a cup of flour. This is all-purpose flour. And to that, I am adding a half of a cup of powdered sugar. Make sure it's powdered sugar and not granulated sugar. It makes a difference in the crust. Just going to level that off. And that goes right in. I love these lemon bars because first of all, they're delicious. But second of all, the crust is like a shortbread cookie, and it is so good. Now I'm just gonna stir this together a little bit, make sure that it's nice and blended. And I'm adding a half of a cup of chopped pecans. And you want to do this before you add your butter because it's important to get these pecans covered in the flour. That way they mix in nicely. All right, now comes the rosemary. I've got fresh rosemary out of my herb garden, and I've just got my stems here, and I'm pulling these leaves right off the stem. And I am going to use about a tablespoon of fresh rosemary, give or take a little bit. It's okay, you don't have to be exact with this. And the rosemary is not overpowering, and it just gives a little hint of something different, and it is a delicious combination with the shortbread cookie and the lemon filling. I just can't tell you how good it is. You've got to try it for yourself. But if you say, no can do, not putting rosemary in my lemon bars, by all means, eliminate this and they will be delicious. I'm going to chop this really finely. Get a nice little chop here. Fresh rosemary smells so good. I read about rosemary years ago, and it was said that back in ancient days, they felt like rosemary was a pick-me-up. So when you smell it, it just gives you a boost of energy. And you know, for years, I kept rosemary on my office desk, and whenever I would feel a little tired, I would just pull on the leaves and smell, and just is a breath of freshness. And this is working out to be about a tablespoon. Now I am using a 9 by 13 pan, so a tablespoon is going to get distributed all through this, and you'll see the little green flecks in there, but like I said, it's not overpowering and it's not too much. I'm going to always put your bowl on a towel, it just helps stabilize it. And off we go with the rosemary. Smells so good. And again, I'm stirring this in my flour and sugar mixture because I want the flour to cover the rosemary completely. Now, last but not least, I'm adding 2 sticks of butter to this flour mixture, and that equals 1 cup. So if you can just remember, 1 cup of flour, 1 cup of butter, half a cup of sugar, and then whatever you want to add. I added the pecans and the rosemary, but you don't have to do either. Put that in there. Now the best tool for this is your hands, kind of like making biscuits. And I'm just gonna get all of this butter worked into the flour. My butter is at room temperature, and I'm also using salted butter. I don't use anything else. A little bit of salt never hurts anything. As a matter of fact, salt in a sweet recipe makes your sugar taste just a little bit sweeter. I don't want to overwork this. I just want to mix it together like I would biscuits, like I said. And then I want to stop, because if you overwork your dough, it will be tough. And we want a nice flaky crust. So I'm just taking this and folding it over. And this is looking pretty good. Let me go wash my hand, and then we'll put this in our baking pan. Let's get this into this. This is a 9 by 13 inch baking dish, and I'm going to take this crust and put it right in there. Now I have a little bit of extra flour because it's going to make it a little bit easier to spread. And you don't need to butter your dish because this has plenty of butter in it. And I'm going to spread this out all over the bottom. Isn't it wonderful how food brings back great memories? I can just taste certain things and it brings me right back to my childhood. And this is definitely one of those things. My mother is a wonderful cook, and baking is definitely her expertise. Now I'm pressing down on this, adding a little bit more flour as I go. Good. This is my crust. It already looks wonderful. I've got my oven preheated to 350 degrees, and we're going to pretty much par bake this before we add our filling. I want it to get nice and crispy, and if I add my filling too soon, then it will get soggy, and we don't want our lemon bars to be soggy. So this is going to go into the oven for about 30 minutes, or until this turns a nice light golden brown. And now we'll start working on the filling. I have got a cup of granulated sugar already added to my bowl here. And I'm adding in a 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. And I'm just going to whisk this together just to make sure it's all mixed up. And I'm also adding some baking powder. This is going to give it a crispy little almost creme brulee type topping that is out of this world. And this calls for 1 teaspoon. That right in there. And it also calls for a pinch of salt. Normally I use kosher salt, but in my baking, I use just regular old table salt. And I would say that's a good pinch, and it goes right in. We'll whisk that up. Make sure that there's no lumps in there. I am cheating over here and looking at this recipe. You know, all of my favorite recipes and family recipes are written down in this book. And as you can see, this one's been used quite a few times. Now I'm adding my eggs, and I've got my eggs at room temperature, and the recipe calls for 4 of them. Those will go right in. Whisk this together. Look at that beautiful yellow color. Now it's time for the lemon. And of course, I am using fresh lemons. You're never gonna get the delicious flavor by using some concentrated lemon juice. You definitely want fresh lemons for this. And before I juice these lemons, I'm gonna take some of the zest. Oh, these smell so wonderful. And put this right in. It's going to give it a little bit of a pop. You want to make sure that when you're zesting a lemon that you only get the yellow part. If you get down into the white, it's bitter. So make sure that you only get the yellow. And I am going to go ahead and zest this entire lemon pretty much. I think that's going to be just right. I'm also going to add a little bit of zest on the top of these lemon bars at the end, so we'll hit it twice. Now the recipe calls for 6 tablespoons of lemon juice, and it's really hard to say how many lemons you'll need for this. It just depends on how juicy your lemons are. So that's 1, 2, 3. You can kind of eyeball this. And 1, 2, not quite 3. I am going ahead and whisking this in, and I want to taste it. Some lemons are tartar than others, so before I start adding more lemon juice, I want to make sure that this is not already lemony enough. Let's go in. Definitely needs more. So I'm going to add another half of a lemon. Let's see how this is. Let's see if I got it right. That's perfect. You can taste the lemon, and it's a little tart, but not too tart. So I'm gonna let this sit, and I've got a few more minutes on my crust here. So I'll see you back here when that's done. Look at this. I could just eat this all by itself. But I wouldn't do that because I don't want to miss out on this delicious lemon filling. I don't know if you can see this or not, but to my lemon mixture, the top is foaming, and that foam is going to be so delicious. Like I told you earlier, it makes almost like a creme brulee topping. It's just a little crispy on the top, and it is, oh, so good. Now I am adding my filling directly to this hot crust. It's exactly what I want. And I'm pouring it all over. This looks so good. And I'm going to help it out, get it in the corners a little bit. And back in the oven, this is going. Let me check her recipe again. Now, the recipe says to bake it 20 to 30 minutes. So, back in it goes. And I'll set my timer for 20 minutes to start with, and we'll see how that goes. Let me go clean up my mess, and I'll see you back here in a minute. I think these are ready. I'm going to turn my timer off and my oven off, and let's get these out. This looks perfect. I cooked these for 25 minutes. It may vary for your oven. Just look for the top to start turning golden brown. And just touch this. It feels perfect. Now, one thing about lemon bars is that you have to let these cool completely. It may be very tempting to eat them while they're warm, but if you start cutting into these before it cools completely, you will never get the lemon bars out of the pan. So my husband always likes that, because if something doesn't turn out, he gets it, and he doesn't care if it's all crumbled up or if it's in nice pretty little pieces. And really, I don't either, but I do want to share the love with these lemon bars, so I want them to be pretty. My oven's turned off. This is going to take a little time, so when these cool off, I'll be back and I'll show you how to finish these off. Sweet memories of Mom right here. These are ready to cut, and I can hardly wait. Now, I have a really sharp knife here. This is a paring knife. And I'm just using a paring knife because I find it a little bit easier to use. And I am going around the sides and making sure that the crust is not stuck to the sides. And it is not. Look, it's coming up beautifully. See that? These are going to be so good. Okay, now I am finishing them off with some powdered sugar. So just lightly going over the top. This is another one of my favorite things about the lemon bars. When I was a kid, I always loved powdered sugar. That's something I don't think I grew out of. Just lightly dusting these, and this is something you don't want to do when the lemon bars are warm, because all of your powdered sugar will melt. You want to see that nice white snowy topping. That's good for now. And I'm going to take a little bit more lemon zest and just lightly go over the top. Just add a little bit more lemon and a pop of freshness. My mouth is watering. I can hardly wait to taste these. That looks good. Now I'm going to cut them. One of the easiest ways to get nice even pieces is to start in the middle and cut it in half, and then cut in half again, and then keep going from there. When I was growing up, we never had candy in the house. No candy, no Cokes. The only sweet treats that my brother and I had were things that my mother made. So when she made lemon bars or anything, really, everything that my mother makes is delicious. It was always a real treat for us. I'm going to keep them larger like that for the moment, but I'll probably end up cutting these again through the middle because these are really rich, even though I could definitely eat one of the larger pieces. Okay, let me get my tray here. You know what? Get one of these out. Look at that cookie bottom and the delicious filling on top. Let's see how they taste. These are so delicious. That brings me right back to my childhood. That little bit of rosemary gives it just a little bit of a different flavor, and it is so, so good. They're not quite as good as my mother's. There's just something about a mother's hands and a mother's touch that makes everything extra special. Mom, I miss you. I love you so much. I wish I could be with you this Mother's Day, but I will enjoy these and I'll think about you with every bite. Listen, thank you so much for joining me today. You are a blessing. I hope you have a wonderful Mother's Day. And you know what? This is a hard day for a lot of mothers. People that have maybe lost their mother or maybe have a wayward child or have lost a child. Reach out to them. Be a blessing. Hey, take them some lemon bars and just show them that somebody does care. Well, I think that I am going to have one more of these, and I hope you have a fantastic day. I'll see you next time. Bye. Here's some pictures of my mother. She has always been a beautiful woman. As a matter of fact, people over the years have asked me, was your mother a model? And no, she was not a professional model, but she is beautiful inside and out. My brother and I are so fortunate to have her as our mother. She's fun. She is the best friend, and she supports us and is our biggest cheerleader. We thank you for that, Mom. We hope you have a beautiful Mother's Day, and we all love you so much. Thank you for all that you do for us.